Om. Om. Sahana Vavatu. Sahanau Bhunaktu. Sah Viryam Karavavahai. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Arjuna Uvacha Madanugrahaya Paramam Guhyamadhyatma Sangitam Yattva Yoktam Vachatsena Mohoyam Vigato Mama Bhavapyayau hi bhutanam Shrutau vistarasho maya Tvatta Kamalapatraksha Mahatmamapi chavyayam Evametadhyathatvam Atmanam Parameshwaraha Drashtumichhami te rupam Aishwaram Purushottama Manyase yadi tacchakyam Maya drashtumiti prabho Yogeshwara tato me tvam Darshayatmanamavyayam Shri Bhagavanuvacha Pashya me partharupani Shatashottha sahasrashaha Nana vidhani divyani Nana varna kritini cha Pashyadityan vasun rudran Ashvinno marutastatha Bahunya dhruda purvani Pashyascharyaani bharata Ihaikastham jagat kritsnam Pashyadhya sacharacharam Mama dehe gudakesha Yachanyat drashtumicchasi Natu mam shakyase drashtum Anenaiva swachakshusha Divyam dadami te chakshuhu Pashya me yogamaishwaram Sanjaya uvacha Eva muktva tato rajan Mahayogeshwaro harihi Darshayamasa parthaya Paramam rupamaishwaram Aneka vakranayanam Anekadbhuta darshanam Aneka divyabharanam Divyat neko dhyata yudham. Hari Om. The 11th chapter entitled Vishwa Rupa Darshana Yoga, the yoga of the vision of the cosmic form. This chapter contains 55 verses. You all may want to take a quick snapshot so you can write those topics at your convenience as you all see them posted in your chat box. But I'll quickly mention these 5 topics so you get a panoramic view as to what the chapter is conveying. So the first 12 verses, Arjuna requests and Lord Krishna shows his cosmic form. There you go. Verses 13 to 25, struck with wonder, Arjuna describes his cosmic form, which is the Lord's cosmic form. 26 to 34, the all-consuming destructive expression of the Supreme Being. Overwhelmed with fear and adoration, Arjuna surrenders to the cosmic form. The 4th topic, 35 to 45. And Arjuna was appeased upon seeing the Lord's gentle human form, 46 to 51, and the last few verses, the way to reach the Supreme Being. So you get an idea as to what is in store in the chapter. So the 10th chapter was titled Vibhuti Yoga. Vibhuti Yoga means, Vibhuti means the glory. So Lord was asked by Arjuna to describe the Lord's glory. And the Lord exhaustively explained where all does he manifest. He said, my glory, my manifestation. He went on to give where all does he manifest. He's shown analytically. In fact, he said, I am the one in the many manifestations. I am that one common principle in the multifold expressions. Whatever you see, whatever you experience, I am the very substratum. I am the very essence. I am the quintessential aspect of everything that you experience. He said, I am the light in the sun. What is sun without the radiance of the light? Nothing. I am the sweet in the sugar. I am the sweetness in the sugar. Take away the sweetness, there is no sugar. I am the beauty in the beautiful. I am the glamour in the glamorous. I am the strength in the strong. I am the intelligent amongst the, I mean, intelligence amongst the intelligent. So he went on enumerating so many verses analytically where he said, I am the one in the many. I am the heart of everything. Now, in the 11th chapter, again Arjuna asks a question. And what the Lord does, he shows himself synthetically. Now, in the 10th chapter, he explained himself analytically, where he said, I am the one in the many. Now, in the 11th chapter, he is showing the many in the one. So the difference between 10th and 11th chapter can be captured in this simple phrase. The many, I don't know. Don't worry, don't worry. If you all have seen balloons, now you'll also see it's not coming. You know, this is the new software update. That's what I'm told. Other day, I got someone to help me. Why is this suddenly balloons coming? The heart, suddenly heart pops up. So I asked, what is happening? They said it is the new software update where the camera picks up gestures. and there's nothing you can do. So the camera is picking up gestures, and then it injects balloons and other into the picture. So don't get distracted. That's why I'm trying to avoid as much of my movements. It's like tying me up. I feel very unnatural. However, don't get distracted. So the 10th chapter is one in the many, and the 11th chapter is the many in the one. How all he captures into that one cosmic form. So the Lord shows the form to Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where the entire army of the Kauravas and the Pandavas were arrayed to fight a battle. It was a battle which was about to begin. And then there's this conversation between the Lord and Arjuna. And such a long conversation. We're glad they had such a long conversation. Now, as you know, the Lord was shown his cosmic form, but there were two people that could only see the cosmic form. Only two people had purview to it. One was Arjuna, second was Sanjaya, who was seated in the Hastinapur, in the palace, where he was narrating the happenings in the battlefield to the blind king Dhritarashtra. Now, when such a majestic, when the many in one, you will see as you go through the text, you will see one eye is the sun, other eye is the moon, multifold arms. Terrifying. In fact, Arjuna was terrified. He couldn't fathom the majestic cosmic form. Now, such a cosmic form, and yet the irony of it, only two people saw it. When hundreds and thousands of people were there, only two people see it. It's not something minuscule. It's not Lilliput that you missed it. It is a giant cosmic form. What do you gather from that? Only two people saw it. What is the implication? Gayatri Man, what is the implication?
A wise is one in a millennium, there will be one person. So, like that, he has shown that only two people are blessed to have the vision of that Brahman or the cosmic form.
I want to remain Maunam. Prakash Garu. Such a cosmic form in the battlefield, only two people saw. Can't hear you, sir. No, we still can't hear you.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Now we can hear you.
I think everybody doesn't have the eye to see him because it is his wish.
They don't have the eye to see, right?
Yes, yes.
So it's the Lord's wish, or the Lord, you say the Lord granted them the eye of wisdom, right? Is that what you say?
Yes, that's what I say.
I also have to maintain little Maunam, sir, here. No, it is not wrong to say so, because they both obviously were given that ability to see. But what you must also understand, it is a visualization. It is not an actual perception. So it is the mind visualizing things. It is not an actual perception. If there is an actual perception, if that is the reality, everybody should see it. Nobody could see it. So it is not a perception, it is a visualization. Many years ago, I don't want to draw a comparison here, but because you'll mistake it. But I'm really trying to convey what I'm saying. A lady known to the family, she wanted to talk to me. I didn't know this lady, and she wanted to have a one-to-one meeting. I said, okay. She came home, and she sat in the study room where I usually study at home. And it was a private meeting, so she was sitting and we both were talking. And suddenly, she says, Guruji, there is more than one person in the room. I said, sorry? She said, I see more than one person in the room. I turned back, I looked around, I said, there's only you and me, ma. What are you talking? She said, I see a ghost there. And she saw a ghost where I usually sit and study there. So I was terrified. Huh? What are you talking about? So it is her visualization. If there was actually a ghost, I also should have seen it. If there is some entity, it must be perceived. You can also take this argument. Otherwise, you will be forced to believe of a cosmic form which is beyond logic. It baffles. How is it possible to be in that form, that synthesis? It's something beyond logic and reason. Therefore, it helps us to understand that it is just trying to convey a concept of the all-in-one, the many-in-one. The entire world is nothing but Brahman. How do you convey it synthetically is the Vishwarupa Darshan. On the back of your mind, if you have this and you sail through the text, you'll find there is a certain rational acceptance. Otherwise, it baffles your intellect. Because after, as you gathered when the summary was being said, Arjuna couldn't stand. When the Lord showed his cosmic form, he told him to fall back. He said, please show me your gentle human form. So he couldn't take it, indicating, there is a subtle indication there that in the spiritual field, or for that matter, in any field of life, you should not overstep your capacity. If you overstep, it will not be acceptable. So when the Lord granted him the eye to perceive, here is someone who couldn't perceive it. He said, please fall back. He, instead of soaking in all that which Lord gave, he said, no, please fall back. I don't want to see it. I don't want it. I don't want it, he said. So never ever overstep your capacity. Your effort must always be compatible to your capacity. All right? So with this little introduction, let's get on with the text. We'll chant verse 1 twice. Arjuna uvacha madanugrahaya paramam Guhyamadhyatma sangitam yatva yoktam vachatsena mohoyam vigato mama. Arjuna uvacha madanugrahaya paramam guhyamadhyatma sangitam yatva yoktam vachatsena mohoyam vigato mama. Arjuna uvacha. Arjuna said, whenever you hear either Arjuna or Lord speaking, you know it's a conversation. So Arjuna said, having heard the supreme secret Adhyatma, which you have spoken, why did you speak? You have spoken out of compassion for me. This delusion of mine is dispelled. Mohoyam vigata. Vigata means dispel. This moha, this delusion of mine has been dispelled because you have spoken about the supreme secret. Paramam Guhyam. Paramam is supreme. Guhyam is the secret. You have spoken of the supreme secret, and this delusion of mine is dispelled. This fellow is lying. Absolutely lying. I don't know what he's talking. Sanjay, I'm very clear at that. Are you clear? Arjuna is continuing to prattle. Doesn't make any sense. You agree? He says his delusion is dispelled.
Yeah, I agree.
You also will not make any sense to me.
I agree because you said it.
I am telling you this fellow is prattling. I tell you this fellow doesn't make any sense. Another fellow comes and says, I endorse that fellow, then both of you are the same category. You also prattling. Are? Is it not so? I am not talking of Sanjay, I am talking of Arjuna here. Bolo. Tell me, Sanjay.
Okay. Sorry, Guruji, are you asking me why he's prattling, or why we think he's prattling?
No, he doesn't think he's prattling. I know from our point of view, he is prattling, not his point of view. He thinks, see, a fellow who's mad doesn't know he's mad. He thinks he's fine. A fellow who is illogical, he doesn't see illogic in his arguments. The person who is logical sees illogic in his arguments. Now, what the contention is, Arjuna claims that his delusion is dispelled.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's no truth in that. The truth is, if his delusion was dispelled, this should have concluded the conversation between Arjuna and the Lord. This would have been the last section of the Gita, which is not so. Another 7 more chapters carries on. 7 more chapters, another 300 odd verses or more, if not more, still coming. And furthermore, after a few verses, he says, oh dear, can you please show me your form? Huh?
Yeah.
If your ignorance is dispelled, why is he asking him to show his cosmic form? What is the need? So he thinks his delusion is gone, but it's not true. Maybe relatively he feels himself much better than what he was in the first chapter. What is the first chapter? Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the yoga of Arjuna's despondency. He was totally despondent. He was totally confused. So perhaps the relative clarity which he has got, having heard the Lord all this while, he feels he is in a much better shape, much better place. That's all we must understand, but not to be taken as his delusion is totally gone. It is not gone. All right. Now the word adhyatma means the supreme self. He says it is the supreme secret. Supreme secret is because nobody, or very rare few, have actually discovered it. They don't know what that secret is. Nobody knows what that self is. So hardly anybody knows it. Since hardly anybody knows it, he calls it as the supreme secret, which is the Adhyatma, which you have spoken out of compassion to me. See, any master who has reached that state of enlightenment, is very difficult to understand them. So from their standpoint, there is nothing that they desire. Because that state of enlightenment is said to be a state of culmination or eradication or sublimation of all desires or vasanas. So from their standpoint, they don't want anything. They are not interested in anything. There's nothing more needs to be achieved. For them, the entire world has no substance, no meaning. Yet, if they're giving out that knowledge to us, the only reason is, as the verse says, it is because of Madanugrahaya. Means out of compassion you are giving this knowledge to us. They want to pull the humanity out of that abyss of ignorance. That's the only thing, if at all, that they're interested in. They want to pull us out of that ignorance. Other than that, they have no other interest. And there is a parallel drawn to the famous metaphor by Plato. You all know that metaphor by Plato. It's called the famous Plato's metaphor. Vap. Have you heard of the metaphor?
No, Guruji.
Huh?
No.
No one. Okay, Ramji will explain. You can give your version, no problem.
Namaste, sir. No idea, sir. Absolutely no idea.
No idea.
I remember you telling earlier about Plato's metaphor, but I am not able to recollect it all.
All right. See, Plato talks of a generation. It's just, again, it's not a reality, but he's trying to convey a point. You've got to visualize it. A lot of it is visualization. So he talks of a generation lost deep in the recesses of the mountain, in the caves. Generations have been born, survived, and this cycle of birth and death carry on. Generations have passed by. So all they have known is the life in the caves. All they were doing was, I don't know how they survived, what they ate. All that is, again, too many questions you can't ask, but he's trying to convey a point. So amongst them, there was a mind which was very curious. It was questioning. That's the first journey of spiritual quest. The spiritual quest begins by questioning the authenticity of your exercise. What is it that I'm doing? If you don't question your whole, you must question the very edifice of your life. That is the beginning of spiritual quest. And he found a sense of hollowness in all that was happening. What were they doing? They were just entertaining themselves, seeing with the shadows that they're playing on the walls of the caves, because they used to have a bonfire and they used to see, chit chat, dance, sleep, eat, get up, carry on. That has been going on. This made no sense to him. Just like if I were to tell you all what you're doing all your life, you're eating, running around, making some money, sleeping, running, eating, making money. All this is a cycle. Everybody running. What? Running behind the world with the hope of acquiring and enjoying. All this life. No other purpose. So he found a sort of a shallowness in their life. So he started questioning and said, come on, there must be something more to this than just entertaining ourselves, seeing the shadows, playing on the walls. Come on, let's go and explore. For a moment, they all thought this fellow is mad. And his persistence only assured them that this fellow is guaranteed a lunatic. Guaranteed lunatic. And they all started abandoning him. So he was almost left to himself. Nobody he could relate to. Ashama, I can understand if you can't relate to others. They may call you mad, never mind. But that's how the world looks on a wise man. So nobody was with him. But he drew enough courage to hold on to that desire to explore the unknown. And that exploration to get to the unknown is known as Chap. The desire to know the unknown beyond the known worldly pursuits. What is the desire to know the unknown? Yes, ma'am?
Don't know, Guruji. Wisdom, maybe the quest to wisdom.
Well, there is this quest to wisdom, but what is that desire to explore the unknown, known as? What is it? It's a desire. It's not desire for wisdom. What is the technical term? Vasanta Senior. Junior, write down. Senior is talking.
I'm not getting it now, Guruji.
What? Enama? The desire to explore the unknown is not a mere jignasu. Jignasu is a curiosity. The desire to explore the unknown is known as mumukshatva. Mumukshatva is known as the desire for liberation. You want to get to that state of attaining the self. Liberation implicates there is a sense of suffocation, a sense of uneasiness in the life that you're living. The sense of suffocation which Lord Buddha, Lord Siddhartha as a prince felt that suffocation in his royal life. Being a prince, he was suffocated. So in the best of things in life, you can feel suffocated means you can feel insulting just to confine your life to those meaningless pursuits. Life has a greater purpose. Ultimate purpose is to realize the self. So amongst all the desires, there are some common desires in us. For example, all of us are interested in this Vedantic wisdom. So we all are here. So there are some common interests of vasanas or desires in us, but most of the desires are different. You are different, I'm different, we are all different because we all have different vasanas. But that one desire to realize the self is common in all human beings rather. Every human has this desire to get back to the self. In fact, so much so, the Shastras say, your only purpose of birth is to get back to yourself. So obviously the desire to know the self, the desire to get to the self, which we call as mumukshatva, is there in every human. But the only thing is, it is lost in the maze of other desires. You have a barn full of desires, and in that one little straw is this desire for self. So it is one transcendental desire vis-a-vis a host of terrestrial desires. So it is one replacing the other. So that young man had that quest to know the life beyond the life which he knew of the generation. So he starts one moment when they all were asleep. He gets up and starts walking away from the generation. A few corners he had the light from the flame, and after that he was in total darkness. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know whether he is going to get to the end. He kept knocking himself in the darkness, pitch darkness. He never gave up that hope of finding something beyond what he knew. He kept going, kept going, kept going. I don't know how long it took for him. He came to many dead ends. He turned back, he found a way, and suddenly he saw something brilliant. Apparently it was, which he has never experienced it. It is too bright, like a diamond in the sky. At a far distance, there was something dazzling. And that became a point which he could hold on to, and he started walking towards it. And that which was dazzling was actually the mouth of the cave. The light from the darkness, it was actually like a diamond sparkling. So he came out, and then he realized that, oh my God, what, for the first time he is drinking fresh water, for the first time he's breathing the ethereal air, for the first time he sees the flora, the fauna, the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars. He was in jubilance, he was in ecstasy, he was dancing to himself. Because that is nothing but attaining realization, and the joy of realization is Nataraja doing Tandava. So he was in ecstasy. He experienced that. But it only was possible because he held on to the desire to explore the unknown, and he had the Shraddha to get him to the very end. And he got there. And then thereafter, he spent a few days, explored, and again got back into the cave. You may say, why? Now his only purpose was to bring another person out. And he went back not knowing whether he'll meet the generation. Again, he went into the darkness not knowing, there was no track he could trace back. So he went back, and after a while he bumped into the generation, and people thought this fellow was lost. And again, they were pleasantly surprised when he came back. And when he started narrating all that experiences, nobody could relate to. They all banned him. They all felt insecure. He was waiting with the hope that one person will follow him, and suddenly a person says, I think there's some truth in what you're saying, I'm with you. And then they both, one fine moment, they both leave. And it was much easier for him relatively. He came out, and the second fellow also went through the same ecstasy what the first person went through. He also seeing all that for the first time. And after a while, he said, now it's your job to go and pull one person out. And he pushes that man in, because his job is done. And this is the principle or the concept of the Guru Shishya Parampara. The Guru realized the truth, and his job was to enlighten one person. And having done, he's done his job. Now we are talking in the context of a Guru, a true Guru, an enlightened soul doesn't want anything. So if he is giving the knowledge, it's because only out of compassion. But the ignorant people don't understand the value of what is given. You scoff at it, you carp at it, you belittle it, you attribute motives to these great men. So that's what we know. Sadly, we don't understand what is their stance. So there is a parallel here to the desire for mumukshatva. So if you have the desire for mumukshatva, you will pursue the self. So the verse says, this knowledge of Adhyatma that you speak is the supreme secret. You have spoken out of compassion, and my delusion is gone. So these masters are sharing a spiritual revelation. So when they attain that spiritual attainment, it's a revelation to them. And what they have heard in the scriptures, it has also become a personal experience. So what they say is a rishi. There's the word, they say a rishi is known as a mantra drishti. Mantra drishti means, have anyone of you heard this term before? The rishis are known as mantra drishtis. Yeah, Hariji?
They are known as mantra drishtas.
Yeah, one who has a
Because
mantra is known as a mantra drishta. Yeah. What does it mean?
it is a revelation. They get a revelation of the mantras, the principles and the laws.
No, we also are adhering to the mantra. So what's the
No,
difference between our
he got, say for example, Gayatri mantra, Vishwamitra got the first revelation. That is why he is known as the mantra drishta of Gayatri mantra.
see what it means is mantra drishta is not a
Theoretical.
certain perception.
Yeah.
They have a special ability to see beyond a normal perception. Perhaps what you could say as an extra sensory perception or extraordinary depth of an eye they have. So when they spoke, so the rishis are known as mantra drishta or mantra drishti because they have that extraordinary ability to pack what the text says with experience. That in-depth perception they have. It's amazing the terms that it implies. It is not, so it's not something which your intellect can fathom. So it is not an intellectual transaction, even though we are having an intellectual dialogue, it is not an intellectual transaction. Who is speaking? Now the question is, who is speaking and who is talking? Pushpama, who is speaking? Don't say you're talking. Who is talking?
Arjuna is,
Huh?
Arjuna is asking.
Not Arjuna. Now I'm saying when the
Doubt, small doubt, Guruji. What
Ah.
made Arjuna? What made Arjuna to know more about Sri Krishna in spite of knowing Vibhuti Yoga?
because he did not he was not satisfied. He did not get the enlightenment. He was not totally transformed in that sense. It didn't really, all the wisdom that he got so far, it didn't help him. So he wants more. Contrary to this, if you take the Upanishadic settings, the stories, how you hear of the parables and the stories, the style of the Upanishad is exactly opposite the Gita. The style of the Upanishad is they used to cater to the most developed student first. Let's say the 10 people in a classroom. A handful of them. Upanishadic classroom, only a handful. So the student at the highest caliber was catered first. And the story goes, after the Guru caters to the first student, he gives the first few mantras, the student gets up and walks out of the classroom, takes the blessings, offers his gratitude and leaves. You know why? Pushpama, you know why?
He must have understood up to that, and he must have thought that's
The Guru is speaking, continuing to speak. Abruptly, he gets up, prostrates, and he leaves. He has attained moksha. He's attained realization. He doesn't need the knowledge from the Guru anymore. Almost pointing it to a point of fault or point of arrogance, but it's not arrogance. It is that once you have attained that state, you don't need anybody else to tell you. You become an authority yourself. That is not being disrespectful to the Guru. So with due respect, they take leave and they walk out. You get my point? So when a knowledge has served its purpose, knowledge is of no use to you. Because the knowledge is only the raw material. Ma. What is the use of raw material once you have got the essence contents? It's no use. So Arjuna, the fact that he keeps asking, okay, why did you ask this question? Because you didn't know the answer. If you knew the answer, will you ask this question? The question of questioning doesn't arise, isn't it? So Arjuna kept asking. So it just tells how shallow was his intellect, because he couldn't get the message, what the Lord said. But I thought I asked you a question. You nicely evaded by asking me a question. No, I forgot the question.
because that was lingering in my mind from the beginning.
Very smart idea. Now tell me what was my question?
Who is speaking and who is talking?
Who is it that is talking and who is it that is listening? Who is the giver? Who is the receiver?
Giver is Krishna Bhagavan and listener is Arjuna.
Okay, that is the context of the Gita. Now in this context, who is talking? Who is the giver? Who is the receiver? You will say, sir, you are giving and we all are receiving. The question is not that obvious. Now, precursor to the question, I said, This class is not a mere empty words. It's not mere intellectual exercise. Now I'm explaining the term mantra drishti. As rishis are said mantra drishta, or a rishi is a mantra drishti, means they had that extraordinary perception beyond the mere words. In connection to that, I'm asking and I'm saying this. Now, this is the backdrop to the question. Who is talking? Who is receiving? Now, I'll not grill you anymore. Because she said, Guruji, please don't grill me like this in the classroom. Anybody? It's amazing. It's not to, the mantra is talking. Wow. The mantra doesn't speak. How can it speak? Intellect is listening. Yes, Harijit. Santama says Brahman.
The Rishi is speaking and the student are talking. Rishi being the mantra drishta, he is speaking with authority.
You should not speak the obvious. When already people, a couple of them have spoken the obvious. That's understood. Sir, the point, I'm with you, and I can understand where you're coming from. See, the whole purpose of this knowledge is attainment of the wisdom, right?
Yeah.
When one has attained 100% wisdom, one is said to have attained self-realization. So the unfoldment of the self is in stages. In the introduction, I said you must never cross beyond your capacity. You must always take step by step to get to that state of spiritual growth. You must never overstep your capacity. So many people just blabber, prattle. They loosely use these words and talk, empty talk. They are not mantra drishtas. Just because you are able to talk and rattle the verses doesn't make you a mantra drishta. So when a mantra drishta, when a rishi is talking, mantra drishta means one who has completely imbibed the wisdom.
Yeah.
So when wisdom is talking, what does it mean? When the guru is talking, it means the self is speaking to you. The Atman is talking to you. So who is talking now is the Atman through me. Who is listening is the Atman through you. So there is a transaction at the transcendental level where the knowledge of the self is being revealed, the knowledge of the self is being received. Now the knowledge of the self is being revealed from which platform? From the standpoint of the self. So it is the self speaking, but self speaking to the extent I have unfolded the self. If I have unfolded 40% of the self, if I've attained self-realization 40%, I can reveal 40% of the self. I speak with that conviction. It is the self that is resonating. It's not the empty words. It's not mere empty verses. It's not the meaningless words. But what is talking is the self. What is receiving is the self. It is not a mere transaction of intellectual knowledge, or it's not mere empty words, is the message. There's a difference between, Ramji, did you say jignasu, right? It is not a classroom where your jignasu is being clarified. It's not a classroom where your doubts are being clarified. It is not a mere intellectual debate. It is not a mere intellectual transaction. It is a spiritual transaction. And in order to transact the spirit, it is the self that speaks. it is the self that receives. Now you can receive to the extent you have. Beyond that, it's only empty words. If you are 15% developed, your 15% only can relate to it. Balance is all empty words. It doesn't impact you as much as that where there was resonance of 15%. The balance 25% is balance, is blank. What about the 60%? I have not revealed 60%. To that extent, 60% is empty for me. I don't know. I need to unfold that. So the whole process is the self speaking to the self. It is like saying we are having a heart-to-heart talk. It's not empty words. My heart speaks and your heart should feel. In that sense, the self speaks and the self receives. So if you're continuously trying to reveal yourself, you will be able to raise your bar of receiving the knowledge of yourself. So after a certain point, it is merely academic. That's what I'm saying. It's merely informative. Beyond that, it has no greater impact on you. Unless you do the, what should you do, Vasantama? What should you do? Unless you do the, beyond 50%, the knowledge is merely academic. Unless you do?
Unless you do reflection and mananam.
You do the sadhana of reflection. When? Brahma Muhurtam. If you don't get up at 4 to 6, if you don't do your sadhana beyond 4 a.m., I tell you, the real sadhana is between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. Rest of the time, you can do anything. Anything, granted. But if you don't do the 4 to 6, you don't reveal the self. You are stagnant, spiritually stagnant. I've seen so many of them falling off, dropping out, because they are not doing sadhana. Not that the guru is incompetent. You will only find a need to connect with the knowledge of the wisdom when you do sadhana. Otherwise, you are just a manager doing job, managerial role. You will relate with work, not with knowledge. Hariji.
If we say the self is speaking and Jiva is talking, is that correct?
The Jiva talking obviously is the individual that talks, but who speaks is, that's why they say, when an acharya sits on a pitham, the pitham or the asana where a guru sits, it is worshipped.
Upasana.
Nobody sits on the asana also. To that extent, that place is worshipped.
Yeah.
Why is it worship? Because the self is revealed from that point. So it's not the individual that is speaking, it is the self that speaks. So when you worship, when you touch a feet of a person, when you touch the elderly people, you touch their feet. Why do you touch their feet? What does the feet symbolize? You can touch their hand. You can touch their shoulders.
They are bending, they are surrendering to the elder.
Why that? Apart from you surrendering, why are you touching the feet? What do the feet symbolize? Sudhakar Garu, what does feet symbolize? Hariji, hold on.
The divinity in them.
How does the feet symbolize the divinity?
We are going to the divinity.
Indeed, you go down to their divinity, but why the feet? What does the feet symbolize? Why do you touch the feet of a person?
I don't know. To be in fact.
All right. Anybody? Why do we touch the feet? Yeah, it is symbolically surrendering. Yes, I understand. You come to them. Yeah, Hariji?
If the feet is weak, he won't be able to stand.
So
that is the strength. That is the...
his personality stands wrong.
Yeah.
So the feet symbolize that which he stands or represents.
Stands on.
So the feet symbolize what he represents.
Yeah, that is
The
the
representation is spiritual wisdom.
yeah, the values and
Values or the wisdom that he is imbibed, he stands on that principles. He's a very, when you say he's a principled man, what do you mean
Yeah.
principled person? Means he's a man of values. So you bow down to those values. So the feet symbolize the values they stand for. Even in English language, you say he stands on those principles, literally. Means he follows those principles. All right. So you can't say the Jiva is talking here. You can take it literally. It is the self that speaks. There's some aura, a spiritual, they say the Tejas, no? A spiritual man has the Tejas aura, and that aura comes because of that spiritual unfoldment.
but the question was who speaks and who talks. The self speaks, and who is talking?
No, I said, who is the giver, who is the taker? Who is speaking? Sir, it is not wrong to say that the self spoke.
Yeah, correct.
In the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the self spoke through many realized souls. The self is speaking now.
Yeah.
Through me. Self is speaking through you, but you can speak to the extent you are connected to the self. That's the point we're making.
Okay, so then I misunderstood your question. I thought that there is a difference between speaking and talking.
No, I used it in a...
Okay, then my apology.
Not at all.
Yeah. Guruji.
Hariji, yes.
When this chapter comes 11, does it not show that Arjuna still has not got the full faith and trust in Krishna? That he has still not fully surrendered, he has got still doubt.
No, where? In fact, if, sir, you understand the concept that knowledge or help is only given when you surrender. Arjuna did not surrender in the first chapter and few verses. Lord kept quiet. Only after Arjuna surrendered, the Lord gave. And the Lord is continued to give because he feels that Arjuna needs it. So it's not lack of surrender, but it is that level of Arjuna that you need to explain, you need to elucidate, you need to clarify, you need to expand, because Arjuna was Alpa Buddhi. Alpa Buddhi means? Alpa Buddhi means?
Shortage of knowledge.
Not shortage of knowledge. Okay. What does Alpa Buddhi
mean? Small intellect. Lack of full intellect. Matured intellect.
Permanently mute Hariji. Don't unmute him anymore. Until I tell you next few classes, no more unmuting you.
Alpa Buddhi is a normal human being, Guruji, not an elevated.
Plenty normal human beings are there.
Yeah.
But Alpa Buddhi, as Hariji said, Alpa Buddhi means they are the small intellects, means little intellects. They can't think big. They can't conceive anything grand. The small intellects. So Arjuna is said to be an Alpa Buddhi. He couldn't understand. After so much of wisdom, still he wants more.
Yeah.
See, there is no substance. He doesn't have that caliber. It's not of that caliber.
Capacity, yeah.
Okay. Verse 2. Bhavapyayau hi bhutanam Shrutau vistarasho maya Tvattah kamalapatraksha Mahatmyamapi chavyayam. Bhavapyayau hi bhutanam Shrutau vistarasho maya Vatta kamalapatraksha Mahatmyamapi chavyayam. Verily, the origin and dissolution of beings. Arjuna is continuing to speak. Verily, the origin and dissolution of beings has been heard by me in detail from you. Yeah, I've heard. What? The origin and dissolution of beings. Bhavapyayau hi bhutanam Shutaha, I have heard. In detail, vistarashaha. You spoke in great detail, Arjuna. O Lord, Arjuna says, O lotus-eyed. Look at the way he qualifies the Lord. He says, Kamalapatraksha. The lotus-eyed, O Lord, and also your inexhaustible greatness. Mahatmyaham avyayam. Your greatness is inexhaustible. Avyayam means there's so much that I can talk. And I've heard of this. Arjuna is reminding himself all what the great Lord spoke. So when he says, O lotus-eyed, it is a poetic description of trying to praise the caliber of the magnetic person what the Lord was. Many a time they say it is the eye that is gives the beauty to the personality. Again, it is poetic, it is symbolic. So when you praise when he says your eyes were as beautiful as a lotus flower, it doesn't mean his eyes were so bigger. What does it mean? What are the areas of comparison? That steady ashama. Poetry means we have to talk to you only. Nobody else in this classroom are poetic. They're all highly intellectual people. Please explain to us. What does
in a poetry you are able to convey a lot in few words.
Correct. So when he qualifies the Lord by saying lotus-eyed, what does it mean?
I wouldn't know. The beauty probably in each feature of the Lord, he sees beauty.
He was a charming person.
Charming, yeah.
He was a magnetic person. People were drawn to him because of his personality.
Yeah.
So much so that you develop an attachment to that person, to the Lord. So when he says lotus-eyed, again there's a comparison of lotus to the eye. So the comparison of lotus element to the eye is, it is not the size, it's not the color, it's not the texture, but the beauty of the lotus flower. So when he says the beauty, how beautiful the lotus flower is compared to the Lord. Even in fact in the Dhyana shlokas, you remember this mantra, the verse in the Dhyana shlokas, where in the second verse of Dhyana shloka, where you praise the Lord, praise Vyasa, in fact, who is Vyasa in the text?
Vyasa is the poet.
He is the poet, but what is Vyasa? He's the author, na?
Yeah.
So Lord Vyasa is also praised. Now here Arjuna is calling the Lord as lotus-eyed. In the Dhyana shlokas, we pay our tribute to Vyasa. And the verse which conveys that, he says, Namostu te Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Fullara Vindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Kaila Purnaha Prajwalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha. So in this verse, there is a comparison. It says his eyes were as large as a full-blown lotus. As large. So comparatively, there is an equal comparison to the reference of the lotus here and in the Dhyana shlokas. All right, ma.
I can tell you the Urdu version of it.
Boliye, please.
Well, everybody has heard of the song Chaudhwi Ka Chand Ho.
गाइए, हमने नहीं सुना नहीं है.
नहीं सुना हुआ, 1959 का है वो.
नहीं, आप गाएंगे तो याद आएगा.
नहीं, उसमें वो जो शायर है, the poet,
गायक तो सही.
he is comparing the eyes of his beloved to a cup of wine. आंखें हैं जैसे मय के प्याले भरे हुए, which means that इतना नशा, मतलब आपको देख के ही इतना नशा चढ़ जाता है.
वो मीनिंग गलत हो गया ना?
नहीं, मय के प्याले से भी तो नशा चढ़ता है ना.
अगर आप वाइन के बारे में बोल रहे हैं, मैं यहाँ पे आंख के बारे में बोल रहा हूँ, आप उल्टा बोल रहे हैं.
तो मैं, he is comparing the eyes to that. That's what I said. Each one's perception is different. उर्दू में ये कहा है.
No, I can understand. Yeah, poetic license. You have a poetic license. Yeah. You have that.
That's it.
Oh, this is news. Is it true? I'm sure it's true. There's, as Soumyama says, Meenakshi Amman eyes are a fish.
Yeah.
Why a fish? Any idea? No, Hariji, you're not going to be unmuted. Don't worry. You can try your luck. We have given instructions. Any reason why? Yes. Chap. No, Bora has an answer.
Yeah, no web.
Guruji, the fish doesn't close its eyes. Similarly, Devi doesn't close her eyes, and it is continuously bestowing upon you, taking care of us without closing the eyes.
So that's the point of comparison, of comparing the Amman's eyes to a fish.
If they say that if Devi closes her eyes, the whole world is going to collapse, and then it becomes a pralaya. So she is taking care of us without closing her eyes.
Correct.
And similarly, you were asking about the Kamalakshi. In that Shantakaram Bhujagashanam, you have that small one of the pada. It is Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam. So, anyone who is seeing Lord's eyes, even Lakshmi fell in love with him, and why not you and me? We all fell in love with this thing. Because of his Kamalanayana, it is enchanting. It is, as you said, it absorbs us. And once you see Lakshmi Kant's Kamalanayan, you will not see anything. You will not see any person. You will not see the beauty or anything in anyone else. So they are so engrossing, and all, you will get assimilated in him.
So it's so deeply philosophical and looks, as you rightly said, symbolic, but deeply philosophical. It conveys. So ultimately, what it says is it's the spiritual aura. There's a transferred epithet. You're conveying the magnetic personality to the eye, because the eye is the beauty of the person. So what really draws you to the person is that spiritual aura.
That's right.
That's the comparison. So it should not be taken literally.
The thing is, it always is telling that you may fall in love with a person or something like that by looking at her or his eyes, and but what you're looking at those eyes, yeah, you are temporarily falling in love, but there is another higher love or higher divinity which will attract you more than what you're actually your current feelings to someone or this thing. So that is what it says. For example, there are a lot of stories also behind this kind of expressions of divine eyes.
I'm trying to get out of the eyes to the philosophy. You're holding on to the eyes.
Yeah, that is the
I'm
philosophy.
trying to protect VAP here, and you are trying to go back to that. Huh?
Sorry, Guruji.
Please, I have to be careful, otherwise, I'll get into trouble. Right, sir. No, I appreciate the input. So, also a point to note is the amount of affection and respect they had for each other. Throughout the Gita, the Lord keeps using various pronouns, calling Arjuna. In fact, recently also the previous chapter, we heard him saying, Dhananjaya, you're a winner of wealth and things like that. So here, the Lord is being addressed as Kamala Patraksha, lotus-eyed. So the verse says, I've heard the origin and dissolution of beings and your inexhaustible greatness. Verily has been heard in detail by you. You have spoken of it in detail. Sadly, nothing has gone into his head. I hope something goes into our head. With that hope, we will have to leave it at this. And I'm not too sure about the next week's class, because I think it is on the occasion of Diwali, respecting the time you will be with your family and celebrating the occasion. I think we will take a break from the following week's satsang. Although we will meet on the next Saturday, the Upanishad class is on. The Sunday Gita class will be cancelled, and we will meet a fortnight from now for the Gita class. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.